clean up.
I know, so I don't feel bad for you.
Oh, very much. Mozart, you cannot go.
You really felt bad, you'd come over and take care of it.
Weinberger, you're reading into our
You don't
time.
that bad.
Always concerned with the modern stuff.
I did it for
Like,
years.
I'm a little bit concerned.
Meret, v'zuku nisht.
Okay.
George.
I was always ready to fire the live-in until I realized that it was me.
The פרק י"ג start with the word ויהי אחרי כן. Now, normally the Tanakh is telling you what happened afterwards. Why the words ויהי אחרי כן we explain, because this is actually the title.
Here.
It's not just to tell you, what is going to happen next happened after what you read before. This is the title of everything that is going to follow. Everything that follows is a residue of the story of David and Bathsheba. ויהי אחרי כן. This story that we read about in פרק י"א between David and Bathsheba, this is a story that caused all the fallout that we are going to see in פרק י"ג, in פרק י"ד, etc. And why? Because David gave the verdict to himself. David said, "Arba'atayim yeshalem." He will pay for what the person, the rich person, who was him, he didn't know at the time, is going to pay for his sin is 4 times.
Indeed.
And everything that is happening
Island.
is a result of the punishment that David actually decreed upon himself. The first one was the baby who died. But in the house of David, things are not going well. The prince, Amnon, the oldest one, apparently, and as it was usually the way things happened, he was the one to take over the place of David when David will die. He was the oldest one. And he's going to a terrible story with his sister. As we saw, most of the Mefarshim explained that it was not his sister, because whatever was the story, she came with her mother. It was a package deal. Her mother was Ma'acha, who was also the mother of Avshalom. She came from Geshur. According to Chachamim, she was a captive by David HaMelech, Eshet Yefat Toar. In any case, she was not a direct sister of Amnon, but they grew together. They were step brother and sister, and he loved her. She was beautiful. We are going to see later that apparently she attracted the people in the house of David, and he was one of them. Now, the way I explained it last time, it was all about lust. It was all about a desire not in place. But you know, when I reread the story and I had to prepare the Prakim later, one of the questions that we raised was about this Yonadav. The story that we read last time was that he had a cousin, Yonadav, who was the son of the brother of David, so he was the cousin of Amnon, and he gave him the idea what to do with Tamar. He said, make yourself like that you are sick, and ask your father that she will come to your room, and whatever. And that's what happened, but he took it one step further and raped her. And we ask, Yonadav is the only person in the entire Bible that said, V'Yonadav ish chacham meod, not on Shlomo HaMelech, not on Moshe Rabbeinu, not on anybody else. Ve'aish chacham meod, he was extremely smart. How come that he didn't understand what is going to happen next? This question I answered last time, that there are people like this who are so smart that they can do the most stupid things. They can say the narishkeit that only people who are genius can understand, And maybe Yonadav was a person like this. You know, he was a chacham, but this was the problem. He was chacham me'od. You know, if you are chacham, you are smart, then you can predict what is going to happen next. When you are chacham me'od, you think that you know everything and you don't give a second thought to the results of what might happen, which might be a pshat. But later on I thought that maybe there is something much more deeper than that. Much more deeper than that. Because you see what happened here? David was strict. Right? David was strict. And someone here raised the question, I think it was you, but David did not understand that something is wrong here? Didn't he understand that something is wrong? And your question stayed with me, because it's a good question. Like, he should not play it stupid, like, a person is sick, he insists that his sister will come. Strange. She was strict. In their days, to stay alone with another person was something that is not mekubal. It was not something so regular. How she was strict to stay with him alone, especially when he said everyone is out. I thought a lot about it, and I will come with a new idea. And tell me, what do you think about it? Because I don't think it's such a bad idea this time. Avshalom and Amnon are rivals, in a way. You are going to see later, in Perek Yudalid, that Avshalom is a very charismatic character. Only problem was, he was the first to be born. According to the way the Torah and the way the conventional tradition was, the oldest brother is going to be the king after the king died. But Amnon knew that he has a problem, because in the house of David HaMelech there was extremely charismatic person, and his name was Avshalom. He was his half-brother from the father. Amnon and Avshalom were brothers, half-brothers. And how do you solve this problem? How do you solve this problem? And Amnon thought about an amazing idea. He will marry his sister. We spoke about the fact that political marriage was something quite common. David HaMelech himself, he married Ma'acha, who was the daughter of the king of Gshur, for political reasons. And the same, he married women, Achinoam Israelite, because Israel, not Israel, but Israel, was the Bira, was the place of Ephraim. So here is a way, when you become a king, to make ties into other Shvatim, who sometimes are rivals, that we are going to see later, Yerovam, who came from Ephraim, take over from David HaMelech, and with people outside. And David HaMelech was very good at it. So Amnon thought, I have a political issue. Who knows, after my father will die. And apparently they started to think about it more and more when David, after the story with Bathsheba, was not the same person. This Gingy became quite pale and anemic, It influenced him in a very serious way, and people in a situation like this start to think, what next? What is going to happen after he will die? And Amnon think to himself, I have to solve this problem. And here is an amazing idea. He has a sister who he loved enormously. You are going to see it in the next period. That's what actually caused me to start thinking this way. She was very attached to Avshalom. And if you remember from the last year, after the rape, where she finds shelter? In the house of Avshalom. For years, she stayed with Avshalom until he take revenge for her from Amnon. They were very attached. So what a brilliant idea, actually. He will take her and will settle the account with Avshalom. He will not be able to attack not a rival but a brother-in-law. And maybe Yonadav thought exactly the same. You know, he said, actually it's a brilliant idea. I just have to help to fulfill it. And he came with this idea, make yourself pretend that you're sick and, you know, she will come, etc., etc. David HaMelech maybe thought the same way. He said, I know what he wants to do. You know, today there is a new fashion. Baruch Hashem, we were saved. Maybe not you, but in my generation. Today, more than the marriage, more than the common life, the big thing today is the offering. When you offer your fiancé, will you marry me? Or it has to be unique. Special. If you did not prepare a song, if you did not jump off a plane and in the middle you scream, will you marry me? Or like taking a rope from the CN Tower and in the middle, that's not like, okay, who are you? Like if it's not something crazy and you can think, you cannot offer, she will not accept. Now, apparently the idea of offering is an old idea. And I want to think through the mind of Tamar for a second. For Tamar. She's in the house of David. She got used to the good life. She knows apparently that she's beautiful. And maybe she thinks the same idea. After all, I'm not direct sister of Amnon. I can marry him. And we are going to see that she basically even offered it, which is also strange. After she was raped, she's still offering Amnon that he will marry her. Everyone will be like disgusted by it, and we say, I don't want to see this person anymore. Not she was raped. And nevertheless, she said, marry me. Because in her mind, I start to suspect, this was the plan. She thought he invites me to his room because he will say, ta-da, will you marry me? Or something like this. You know, it's going to be, and then they are going to the Facebook and to tell everybody, you know, I invited her to make some latkes, and then I offered her, what a beautiful idea. Well, maybe it was not exactly like this, but something around that. David did not suspect it. She did not suspect it. Maybe even this smart guy did not suspect it. They saw it as a very calculated move that he will marry someone from the house of David that he is allowed to marry. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be the next in line after David will die. Fantastic. And it explained lots of things, like how indeed he managed to trick everyone. Because everyone actually expected it. It was not so strange. It was a marriage in the family, allowed in the family, that will get the benefit of everything. So, I actually like my own theory. I think it's not so bad. Because otherwise, everyone was stupid here around. And I think that this makes some sense, the whole story. So, in any case, let's see what happened next. She's coming to Amnon, and I want to start reading again from Pasuk Tet. ותיקח את המשרת, ותצוק לפניו, so she's doing the latkes in front of him, וימאן לאכול, he doesn't want to eat. ויאמר אמנון, הוציאו כל איש מעלי, ויצא כל איש מעליו. So he asked that everyone will leave the room, and he wants to stay with Tamar. Now you say, whoa, that's something bad. But I'll tell you, according to my theory, it's actually, everyone said, oh, in 5 minutes there will be like, Dishama or something like this, that they will come from the room. So they did not suspect it, and maybe she did not suspect it. ותיגש אליו לאכול, ויחזק בה, ויאמר לה, בואי שכבי עמי אחותי. And here, you know, this shock, that from thoughts about offering her, she get the idea that, whoa, she just misled herself and he misled everyone. ותאמר לו, אל אחי, אל תענני, כי לא יעשה כן בישראל, אל תעשה את הנבלה הזאת. She tried to talk to him, and as I explained, when a person is burning with lust, when you try to talk to him like as a normal, as a reasonable person, you lost it already. He came from a very different place. It was not like something that you can talk to a person. He was at this point like a person who is going to rape someone else. And she did not understand. She was too naive to understand that in a moment like this, you don't talk, you scream and leave the room immediately. Or he did not allow her.
There was no Me Too movement.
I'm sorry?
There was no Me Too movement.
You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. And we are going to see how bad it was. Yes.
If Amnon really had any honorable intention, like you were saying, that he was thinking of, that he'll marry her and that'll put him in a good position for the future, he would have gone to his father. I'm sure in those days that's the way it had to be done. You didn't approach the woman and then go tell your parents afterwards.
You might be right. People had to be alert, but you see, that's why he needed the whole story of... so we know that he did not intend to marry her. That's clear from the beginning, and that you are going to see in a second. And that's where, to remove suspicion from others, why he doesn't go to his father and finish it, he made himself like chole and so on. So he eased a little bit the concerns, but actually, especially when we already know what happened at the end, there were some signals that were bad from the very beginning. But again, this was the chokhmah of Yonadav to find a way to cover it to pretend that he was sick. Yeah. So number one, she says, she come with a bunch of reasons. Number one, maybe Goyim are doing it. Jews are not doing things like this. Number one, this is not the way that Jews, and that's what we say under the chuppah, it's asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav. We have, even for the most regular thing of Priya or Reviya, we have Kiddushin, we have Nisuin, we have a way to do it, certainly not by raping someone else. Al ta'aseh et hanevala azoti. This is something which is terrible. No distinguished, respected person is doing something like this. So this is about you, but what about me? Ve'ani, ana olechet chirpati. You are going to desecrate me, and where am I going to go? In these days, it was the end of the world.
She also calls him Achi.
I'm sorry?
She also calls him Achi.
Achi, because she
He's
tried...
trying to, he's trying to say, you're like a brother to me, so...
Exactly, so even if you were like a regular person, it's inappropriate, but you are my brother. How can you do it? And she comes, she said, you know what? You can get everything you want if you will talk to the king. He will approve it, and you will get me in a normal way. Why should you do it inappropriately when obviously you can do it appropriately? And you see here is something you spoke about Me Too. The Torah says something that on the surface look very strange. The halacha is that if a person raped a girl, he must marry her if she wants. Of course, if she doesn't want, she can't. And it sounds strange. He raped her, and then the Torah say that he must marry her. The answer is yes, because in these days, rape did not end up with the disgusting act of raping someone. It was destroying the family name, it was destroying the girl name. This was almost gzar din mavet. It was a death sentence to the family, to the reputation of this lady, which was everything. It was not the days where a woman could go and to work and to do something with their life, no matter what. So sometimes the aftermath effect was much stronger than the rape itself. As hard as it is to believe. And therefore the Torah said, if she still wants to keep some of her dignity, if they want to bury it in the family or something like this, he should marry her. Unless she doesn't want him, which makes sense. But here you see the same idea. She still wants to marry him.
I don't think
Because-
so. I think this is all trying to get him to stop.
Maybe.
He starts off by saying you don't do things like this. And the last one is, you know, if you really want to go ahead and go ask the king, it'll
It's
happen.
possible. Like to gain time.
Yeah.
Gain time. Maybe. But I think that really the idea of the Torah might be here, just apply here, that indeed sometimes if you make a cold calculation, as terrible as it is, it's better to bury it and to continue on with your life and to keep your dignity in a way, rather than just destroying it. We are going to see that he actually killed their life. She was a no person anymore. Like, who is going to marry her, especially not a distinguished person? It's a terrible thing. And on the pshat, I think it's more than just gaining time and to not to be. ולא אהבה לשמוע בקולה. He didn't want to listen to her. ויחזק ממנה, ויעניה, וישכב אותה. He raped her. And then the strangest thing is happening. וישנאיה אמנון שנאה גדולה מאוד. After he raped her, the whole relationship turned around. From kind of love, it turned to be שנאה, hatred. כי גדולה השנאה אשר שנאה, the hatred was so deep, so profound, that if you compare it to the love he had before, or the lust that he had before, like it just was much stronger. The feeling of hate was much stronger than what he felt before. ויאמר לה אמנון קומי לכי, leave the house. ותאמר לו, please don't do it. על אודות הרעה הגדולה הזאת מאחרת. Kick me now from your house in a state like this, it's worse than what you did to me. ולא אהבה לשמוע לה. And he still did not want to hear. He used her, he threw her, he doesn't want her around. ויקרא את נערו משרתו, ויאמר שילחו נא את זאת מעלי. He does not even mention her name. He just say, kick her out, I don't want to see her anymore. ונעול הדלת אחריה. And just lock the door behind her. I don't want to see her anymore. Can you imagine? ועליה כתונת פסים. Who had כתונת פסים?
Yosef.
Yosef. Because Yosef was supposed to continue his father. That's why the brothers were so angry, because they understood that he's going to take over from Yaakov. That's why he made כתונת פסים, which was something special. I'll tell you in a second what a beautiful פירוש of the Malbimot is כתונת פסים. כי כן תלבשנה בנות המלך הבתולות מעילים. They had a special coat, כתונת פסים, before they got married. ויוצא אותה משרתו החוץ, so the משרת took her, וינעל את הדלת אחריה, ונעל הדלת אחריה. Malbim explained something very interesting, and today actually you see it sometimes. There is something like this. He says that pas in Hebrew, this is pasayad. This is in the Tanakh, it's called this area pasayad, from the thumb. This area of the palm root is called in the Tanakh pasayad. So he explained that the kotonet was in a way that the thumb, they had a hole here, and the thumb was going outside. You know this, like they have the gloves today that like only, why they did it? Because the Bnot HaMelech were so like honored that they did not do any work. So normally we say like roll up the sleeve, like before you do a job. They could not do it. their thumb was like this, like they cannot raise the sleeves in order to do any work. And normally if you work in the kitchen, you clean the house, whatever it is, then if you cannot roll the sleeve, you are going to dirt your clothes. And this was exactly the idea. I don't do anything. She's a Jewish princess. Like, no, she's not doing. So Ktonet Pasim, he explained, was when the sleeve end up with the hole where the thumb went, so they could not roll the sleeves. It was something that only the girls in the house of the king used to do to show, I'm a princess, I'm not working. Interesting perush. But apparently Ktonet Pasim, as we see by Yosef, was something that distinguished you as a very important person in the house of the king. And she was, why the Pasuk is telling us that? Maybe to show the disgrace from a person who is going with special bgadim, and this disgrace of rape, of losing her honor, self-honor. What, like from Igra Rama to Bira Amikta. That's what the Tanakh tried to tell us here. But I want to draw your attention to something quite interesting. We already mentioned that Ktonet Pasim appears by Yosef. And I think that the writer of this story, whoever it was, according to Chachamim, it was Natan Hanavi. He wrote Sefer Shmuel. He wanted to leave us hints to other stories in the Tanakh. And the first one is obviously the story about Yosef. So first of all, we have here a story about like tension in the house between a lady, in our case Tamar and Amnon, in the case of Yosef between Eshet Potiphar and Yosef. So let's just take this chart that I made here and see few of the examples that are not accidental, I believe. ותישא אשת אדוניו את עיניה אל יוסף, ותאמר שכבה עמי. Come and sleep with me. What does it say here? בואי שכבי עמי אחותי. Exactly the same exact word. שכבה עמי, שכבי עמי. ולא שמע אליה לשכב אצלה להיות עמה. And when Absalom is asking her, he said, Aminon achi chaya imach, the same word that the Torah uses in Bereshit, ima or imach is used here. What Yosef excused himself from Eshet Potiphar, ואיך אעשה הרעה הגדולה הזאת וחטאתי לאלוהים. Very unique choice of words. הרעה הגדולה הזאת. What does it say by us? אל, don't do it. אודות הרעה הגדולה הזאת מאחרת אשר עשית עמי לשלחני. Exactly the same three words, הרעה הגדולה הזאת. And then, ויעזוב בגדו בידה, we are talking about the beged, וינוס ויצא החוצה, he's running outside, and then she see that he left the beged, which was obviously a ktonet pasim maybe, or something that distinguished him. Then she called everyone in. Vayomer, in our pasuk, shilchuna et zot me'alai hachutza. Again, we have the house and hachutza. It's about Yosef, it's about Tamar. ויהי כשמוע אדוניו ודברי אשתו אשר דיברה אליו לאמור כדברים האלה עשה לי עבדיך וייחר אפו. The same thing happened here with דוד. והמלך דוד שמע את כל הדברים האלה וייחר לו מאוד. The same thing, הוא שומע וייחר לו. The same choice of words. כתונת פסים. הוציאו כל איש מעלי, when all the achim are coming to the room, he said, הוציאו כל איש מעלי, that's exactly what Amnon is doing, הוציאו כל איש מעלי. Now, the end of the stories are very different. By Yosef, everything that we mention is very positive. We show the greatness of Yosef, who does not fall prey to Eshet Potiphar. Yosef is revealing himself to his brothers. Here it exactly everything is the opposite. But I think that you are convinced that there is a connection between the two stories. Like the words here don't leave you much room for doubt that he wanted to parallel it to the story of Yosef and Eshet Potiphar. So what is the reason? Why was it written this way? What do you think the Tanakh want to teach us by doing it this way? There was one more word in Pasuk Tet. Also, I did not write it here, but when I read it today, I noticed Vayemaen. It's also by Yosef. It said, when she asked him Vayemaen, like the Shalshelet, right? That Chazal say that it was not so simple, but the same word, which is very, very rare. The word Me'un, Vayemaen, is very rare. So another one to add to the list. Maybe I'll do it when I will teach another time. Vayemaen. So what the Tanakh teaches us here? I would say two things. Number one, the Tanakh want to show us how same situation can end up very differently. Because sometimes we think that we are victims of the circumstances around us. And one of the great lessons of the Tanakh is that people can find themselves in situations, certain situations, and one end it as a terrible person, one as a hero. And the Tanakh want to draw our attention how Yosef managed to, he was in a nisayon too. And for him it was even easier. He was away from the family, from everyone. If he would sin, no one would know about it. But nevertheless, it's the ability of a human being to overcome the worst nisyonot. And in the house of David, where everything looks secure and everything like protected, you can become the worst, the most terrible person with the same situation. You can take the brotherhood of Yosef, who actually had all the reasons in the world to ignore his brothers, to torture them, to take revenge, and to turn to say everyone outside in order to reconnect to his brothers. That's what he did. And you can use the same situation to ruin the family inside. And he is also motzi kol ish me'alav. For what a purpose? To ignore the brotherhood and the family ties inside the house. So it's striking how the Tanakh want to parallel the two cases. But this is not the only case that the Tanakh here try to parallel. The second one is obviously the first rape that we read about, the story of Tamar and Dinah. So here it's a mishmash of stories that come to take everything that is going bad, I would say, in Sefer Bereshit, and I will give you a third one when I reread the Perek today, just to complete the picture. But let's see the story of Tamar and Dinah. Remember the story Shechem, Yaakov coming back to Eretz Israel. The first thing that happened to him is the rape of Dinah by Shechem ben Hamor. So let's take a few examples. In Sefer Bereshit, פרק ל"ד, ויקח אותה, וישכב אותה, ויעניה. Exactly the same thing is happening here in our פרק. ויחזק ממנה, ויעניה וישכב אותה. וישכב אותה ויעניה. Then the same word, which is, I think, appear only once in the Tanakh, or maybe twice. Ki nevala asa b'Yisrael, when the brothers are coming back, they are so upset with what happened. They just hear that Shem raped their sister. Ki nevala asa b'Yisrael lishkav et bat Yaakov, vechen lo yaseh. What does she say? Ki lo yaseh ken b'Yisrael. Al ta'aseh et hanevela azot. She just repeats the pasuk from Sefer Bereshit. And if she repeated it exactly, or the writer of Sefer Shmuel wrote it in order to draw our attention to this episode of Shechem and Hamor, quite clear, he wants to draw our attention that we are re-experiencing the story that happened between Shechem ben Hamor and Dinah, the daughter of Yaakov. Let's see the next one. ובני יעקב באו מן השדה כשומעם, והתעצבו האנשים, וייחר להם מאוד. They became so upset to hear about it. Can you imagine? They just came from the house of Laban. The first thing that happened to them when they come to Eretz Israel, to Shechem, their sister is raped. וייחר להם מאוד. You know, can you imagine a person dream to go back to his homeland? Hashem promised Yaakov that he's going to have a great nation in Eretz Israel, and the first thing that happened to them when they come to Eretz Israel, such a tragedy, a terrible tragedy. What is the reaction of David? והמלך דוד שמע את כל הדברים האלה, וייחר לו מאוד. The same words. וייחר לאחים, וייחר להם מאוד, and to David, וייחר לו מאוד. Yeah, and they upon hearing it. והחריש יעקב עד בואם. What was the reaction of Yaakov? He does not say a word. והמלך דוד שמע את כל הדברים האלה, וייחר לו מאוד, ולא דיבר אבשלום עם אמנון למרע והטוב. Also, not talking about the case. Talking about the case is actually to revive it. We are going to see how Absalom dealt with it later. And then, the same idea in the development of the story that we didn't learn. At the end of this Perek Yudalet, Absalom find an opportunity to kill Amnon. And he does it in a very sophisticated way. Exactly as the brother and the sisters are doing to Shechem ben Hamor. They trick them to do a bris. In the third day, when everyone barely can walk after the operation, and it was not done like today, like they were older people, you know, it is an operation. They killed the entire city. That's exactly this idea of tricking someone in order to kill him appear here and here. ויהי ביום השלישי בהיותם כואבים, ואת חמור ואת שכם בנו הרגו לפי חרב. What Absalom is doing? He said, when you see that Amnon is drunk, ואמרתי עליכם היכו את אמנון ועמיתם אותו. The end of this rape is by killing the person, the raper. And what happened then? And this is the most interesting thing. You know, let's stop here for a second. So why indeed it's important to tell the story with drawing parallels to the story of Shechem ben Hamor? Yes?
Well, I just want to make a general observation. Amnon and his position must have had an education. You would assume he would have had an education. And he knew the story of Yosef very well. And he knew the story of Dinah very well. So he should have learned something. Mm-hmm. In other words, he was well educated, he was well positioned. He learned the story of Yosef. Anyone learns the story of Yosef in the situation with Eshet Potiphar. Anyone who sees the situation of Dinah and what happened in that case and the end result, right? If he would have thought about it at all, he should have easily come to the conclusion, this is not the way, you know, this is how Yosef behaved, this is the right way to do it, and this is how Shem Dinah was treated, this is the wrong way to do things. He should have learned something.
Exactly. What the Torah tried to show us here, and we are going to see it big time, that basically Amnon did not learn anything. Not only that he did not learn, to see like Yosef. Yosef was really exceptional. Chazal said, why it said, we just read Kriyat Yam Suf, Hayam Ra'av Hayanos. Why it happened that Yam Suf was split and ran away from Bnei Israel? Because Yosef HaTzadik, what does it say? Vayanos mipanea achutza. So the only places where we find the idea of Vayanos, that he ran away, is by Yam Suf, Hayam Ra'av Hayanos, Hayarden Yisov Le'achor, and Yosef running away. So Chachamim say it must be that there is a connection. What was the merit of Bnei Israel that the sea ran away from them? It was a reward for Yosef running away from Eshet Potiphar. So this was indeed something very, very unique. Maybe not everyone can stand it, but at least not to be a raper like Shechem ben Hamor, this is a minimum. Even this you didn't learn. You didn't learn the story of Shechem ben Hamor, which every kid in a cheder, I think that they teach it in cheder, he knows like how dangerous it is to come to this kind of relationships. But I think it's even more. Because we wish that Amnon will behave like Shechem. Because there is something very, very interesting which we have, even for a person, terrible person like Shechem ben Hamor, to say few good words that we cannot say about Amnon. Because look what happened. And this is the last squares. What happened? וירא אותה שכם בן חמור אחיו נשיא הארץ. ויקח אותה, וישכב אותה ויעניה. Up to here, everything like Amnon with major difference. She's not his sister. She's a beautiful girl, came from the house of Yaakov, apparently with good midot, and like Bat Israel Kshira, and apparently he fell in love, especially when he compared it to the local schoire, and he wanted her. But listen what happened after the rape. So if you remember what happened to Amnon, he hated her. He never wanted to have any connection with her, to throw her from the house, no connections anymore. Even Shechem ben Hamor was very different. After everything he did, he took some responsibility. He changed his attitude towards her. From a lust, it became love. By Amnon, maybe there was some love, but after he raped her, and the Pasuk said, the hate was much larger and stronger and deeper than the love. By Shechem ben Hamor, it was the opposite. What happened next? Vaye'av et hanara. After he raped her, and he wants to take her to be his legal wife. And he's negotiating with the brother. Little he knew that they don't see it such a great kavod. But at least, a young person, we all know today in the world, it's you don't have to go like 4,000 years back in order to know that people, especially powerful people, like Shechem ben Hamor, who was Nesi Haaretz, sometimes are, cross certain lines. But what happened next? You take responsibility or not? Shechem ben Hamor wanted to take her home, she will become his wife. What happened. Everything that happened in Shechem stays in Shechem, so she will stay in Shechem too. And that's the way it's going to. And he offered them very nicely, very handsomely. Tell me what the mohar, how do you say mohar, the naden? Dowry. Yeah, as much as you want, I'm going to pay it. And then they did not care. But he, to a certain point, was a mensch.
But you could say, I think there's a difference, because I think in Amnon's case, he could realize what he did was so wrong, that he was disgusted with himself, and having her in his presence just reminded him and he didn't want to see her anymore
It's-
with.
No,
No.
no way,
No.
no way.
That's-
He's not tzaddik here.
No,
well,
I'm not saying he's
Yeah,
a
no,
tzaddik,
no,
I'm saying
yeah.
he's
No,
just
but that's a
not-
cop
That's not
out.
what it is.
That's
No,
a
that's
cop
what it is.
out.
He had.
I'll let you fight if you like it. But,
George, I happen to agree with you.
but I want to read few words from Rav Soloveitchik
No, no,
that
it must be
will
wrong.
I know.
support your idea. Because Rav Soloveitchik, in his famous Chamesh Drashot, he asked this question, like, how come that from intense love that he plans, like in a moment, in a second,
Total reverse.
he became like
Hate her.
obsessed exactly the opposite with hating her. What happened here psychologically? What happened? So he suggests the following, and I actually
He screwed up.
where is it? I think that I.
In the vernacular.
So Rav Soloveitchik says the following: הוא שנא אותה, לא מחמת ייסורי מצפון, not that he's like, you know, his heart like beat him now, oh, I did something terrible, no. But in a second, he realized that the chet, that the sin he did, changed him totally. And there is a famous book that I loved to read when I was young. It's about a picture that Dorian Gray, the picture of Dorian Gray. Yeah, there is a book like this.
Yeah.
Classic.
Of course.
And the story is telling about a person that he changed a picture which was hailed as the most beautiful picture in the world, changed with him. And the person is going like from a distinguished young person, very attractive, to a person that ends his life like in a port with all the lowest of life. And the picture like change with him. It's a well-written book. And the same thing is happening here. You know, the moment he looked in the mirror, so to speak, after he raped her, he saw a different person, which he hated. If he held himself before as a prince, as a distinguished person, he understood that what happened here destroyed his personality. And instead of going to a process of tshuva, and this is what we are going to discuss in a second, he took his anger on himself and funneled it against her. So what you say, there is something very profound here psychologically, that the anger was directed against her. Instead of dealing with his issues, he preferred to throw it all on her, and
He blamed her.
No, he transferred his guilt to her.
Or he blamed her.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
In his mind, maybe he thought she, somehow it's her fault.
yeah, which we know that sometimes you hear that, after Chas v'Chalila someone was a victim to a rape, what do you say? She dressed in a way that left no choice to the people, which is like to victimize the victim again, and like to rape him like mentally again. So the same idea maybe, yeah. A question, yes?
What was I gonna say? Or it could be that, because she resisted him throughout and possibly was cursing him from beginning to end, he hated her for it.
You
After
mean
all,
you-
she should have been overwhelmed with him, and instead she resisted and possibly just cursed him out, and therefore he hates her afterwards.
But it's more than that, okay. But you see, the Tanakh is careful to tell us that something very profound happened to him, a transformation, a very bad one. And it's hard to understand, okay, she resisted it, well, you can expect it, but Rav Soloveitchik tried to say that many times when we are doing something that take us lower, we become angry, but instead of like using it as, everyone might
That's it.
experience failure, but the question is what you are doing with it next. And here the point that I want to remind us. This story is a punishment to David. What David did with Bathsheba, he took someone who at least was perceived as Eshet Ish. If it was halachically Eshet Ish or not, this let's leave behind us. But certainly it was a Chilul Hashem. He used this power as a king to do something that a king of Israel is not doing. And what happened next? He understood his mistake. And instead of telling Bathsheba, you go, I don't know where, I don't want to see you anymore, he bring her to his house. She will not suffer as a result of what happened now, losing her reputation. She becomes the wife of the king. So actually Amnon had an example to learn not only how to fail. Yes, some people say, that's what they say, like the apple is not falling far away from the tree. David did it, Amnon did it. That's such a partial view of the story, because here is what missing. David failed, and people fail, great people fail. But immediately upon understanding it, he fixed it in a way. He took responsibility for what happened. And we mentioned it a few times. Tamar, this is not the first Tamar. We have the old Tamar in Sefer Bereshit too. And Yehuda, the forefather of David HaMelech, made a mistake. He went, he didn't know, but it was not appropriate act. And he could cover it. They took care to be barren, and you know what? If nothing would happen, no one would know that he is responsible for the situation. He take responsibility, he bring her to his house, he take responsibility for her children, and from this come David HaMelech. So, this you can say, that the apple doesn't fall far away from the tree. It's already started with Yehuda. But the beauty of the story is that they take responsibility for it. This what made great people great. Not the fact that they never fail. The fact that they take responsibility for their failures. And here Amnon completely missed it. Instead of seeing what happened, taking responsibility, and she suggested him, and she said, let's do it right. Even after what happened, he rejected it completely. And for this, actually, he closed the door upon himself. When he closed the door on her, he closed the door upon himself. And I'll tell you what I'm talking about. Do you remember another case where a door was closed? And very much like this, like Arayot in the family, the story of Sodom. If you remember, the Malachim are coming. They enter the house of Lot. Vayisgor achrehem adalet. They try to take them from inside the house, and they close the door. And by doing so, actually, they close the door upon themselves. Because from now on, there was no tshuva, there was no way to go backwards, and Sodom was destroyed. And when he closed the door on her, he destroyed himself. Maybe it took more time, it was not happening overnight, but from this moment on, Absalom knew pretty well he is going to take revenge and to kill Amnon. So here is another parallel to another disaster in Sefer Bereshit, the story of Sodom. Sagar alehem adelet. And another parallel to the story of Sodom is, what did she say? What did she say? Al achi, al ta'aneni. What Lot say that? Al na achai tareu. He also talked to them, Al na achai, exactly like she said. So the Tanakh is making a connection to the story of Sodom, the story of Dinah and Shechem, and to the story of Yosef and Echav. It's such a beautiful way to weave all the story together and to show how indeed Amnon, number one, not only did not behave as Yosef, not only that he did not learn even the small lesson he could learn from Shechem, he actually did the chet of Sodom. Now, this is really terrible because the following. We have to understand what is the purpose of Malchut Israel, and we spoke about it a few times. The whole story of Malchut Israel is to present a model to the world which is very, very different from what people used to have. If by kings all over the world they use their power or misuse their power against their citizens to gain money, the Torah is very precise about what a king of Israel is doing. You know, the king of Israel, for example, if he would be here, you would see under his, if he would go with a short suit or not, I don't know, but the Torah requires him to tie a small Sefer Torah to his arm, to always remember that he is under the power of the Torah and not the opposite. The Torah limits the number of women he can have. Well, Shlomo did not listen so much to this. The money he had, the chariot he had. The Torah always say, I'm going to show a different model of kingship. The Torah want to show us, for example, what is the power of the family of the king, how they conduct themselves, how they show morality. Here in the house of David, that's a terrible story here. Once he made a sin, the whole idea of kingdom was falling apart. Hashem tried to show the world that we can run. A king can be different. And the tragedy of the story, he wasn't different. In the house of David itself, the same old problems that every king, every kingdom, every kingship had was also here. The Torah does not try to hide it in any way or shape. And
The Torah doesn't try to hide it. So I understand the story of Yehuda. At the end of the day, he learned a lesson. I had the same thing with David and Yosef. What am I learning from here? I mean, I'm not getting anything. The other three, I've learned something.
The learning,
here I learned that someone didn't,
I think that the
someone
learning
didn't stand up to...
is quite profound. Is quite profound. That indeed, no one is immune, even in the house of David HaMelech, from the pitfalls of power. I think that's clearly the message of the story. Don't think for a second that we are very different from all the goyim around us. The goyim. No. It can happen in the house of David HaMelech, under his nose, in the next room. And that this is one of the most important messages, maybe, that we will never should have this illusion it cannot happen in our house. If it happened in the house of David, it can happen everywhere. And you have to be aware of it. That's exactly the message of the Torah. But next week we are going to see the whole story from the eyes of Avshalom. Laila Tov. So here is Perek Yudalet. This is for next week already.